I came home early that Friday. Plant shut down for maintenance, so I figured I'd surprise the family. The house was dead quiet when I walked in. Her car was gone, but that wasn't unusual. She worked late most nights. I was grabbing a beer from the fridge when I saw her tablet on the counter, still charging. The screen lit up with a text notification. Some guy told her he couldn't wait to see her tonight, wanted her to wear that blue dress he liked, called her baby, added a heart emoji. My stomach went into knots. I stood there staring until the screen went dark, then sat down hard at the kitchen table. Maybe it was innocent. Maybe it was a friend being playful, but I knew better. When she got home an hour later, I was watching TV like nothing happened. She kissed my cheek, asked about my day. I told her about the shutdown, asked about hers. She said it was busy, lots of meetings. She was wearing jeans and a t-shirt, not the blue dress. Over the next few weeks, I started paying attention. Girls' nights happening more frequently, new clothes. She'd started doing her hair differently. She started wearing makeup everywhere. The worst part was how normal everything seemed. Kissing me goodbye in the mornings, helping the kids with homework, like nothing was wrong. 2 months after that text message, I was at the pharmacy picking up prescriptions when I saw the DNA test kit on the shelf, one of those home paternity tests you mail in. I bought it on impulse, told myself I was being crazy, that I was letting paranoia take over, but something wouldn't let it go. If she had been cheating, if it had been going on for years, I needed to know everything. I hid the kit in my toolbox, waited until the following Saturday when she took both kids to her parents' house for the day. I told her I wasn't feeling well. I needed to rest. The kit came with these discreet swabs that looked like lollipops, designed for exactly this kind of situation. I saved their toothbrushes from earlier that week and carefully collected samples from the bristles, swabbed my own cheek. I sealed everything and dropped it at the post office before she got home. The waiting was brutal. 2 weeks, the box said. I checked my email obsessively. The results arrived on Wednesday. She was upstairs getting ready for work. The kids were fighting over cereal. I opened the email on my phone. Probability of paternity, 0% for both kids. I sat there feeling like the floor had disappeared beneath me. 8 years with my son, 5 years with my daughter. Bedtime stories, scraped knees, first words. I read the results 3 times, certain I was misunderstanding something, but the numbers were clear. I deleted the email immediately. When she came downstairs asking if I was okay, I said I was just tired. She kissed me and told me maybe I should take a sick day. I went to work and acted normal, but inside I was calculating. Child support for 2 kids for 13 years. Alimony. She would probably get the house. I would be paying for kids who were not mine until I was in my 50s, unless I handled this very carefully. Well, I was blindsided to say the least. She asked for a divorce 2 weeks later. Sunday morning, while the kids were at her parents' house, told me she wanted a divorce, just set down her coffee mug and said it. Said she hadn't been happy for a long time. Figured I hadn't been either. I asked if there was someone else. She hesitated, then admitted there was. Said it had started recently, that she'd been planning to talk to me anyway, that she was sorry. She wanted it to be amicable, for the kids' sake. Said she knew I couldn't afford a big legal battle, and neither could she. We should just be adults about this. I asked what she wanted. She laid it out like she was reading a grocery list. Primary custody of the kids, with me getting every other weekend and then Wednesday nights. Child support based on state guidelines. Split the savings 50-50. She would keep the house and buy out my half over time. She made more than me, but she would be raising the kids full time, so it was only fair. Fair? The word stuck in my throat. I told her I needed time to think. She looked relieved, like she expected me to fight. Said she would give me a week, then we would need to start the process. The next morning, I called a family law attorney. The lawyer was a young woman who had only been a lawyer for about 6 years. I sat in her office and told her everything: the affair, the DNA results, my wife's demands. When I finished, she said, "Be prepared for this to last a bit." First thing I needed to understand was that this wasn't going to be quick or simple. Even uncontested divorces take 4 to 6 months minimum in this state. Contested cases with custody disputes looking at 18 months to 2 years. I asked about the DNA evidence. Could we use it to avoid child support? She said it was complicated. I was on the birth certificates, right? I'd been acting as their father for their entire lives. I shook my head in agreement. So legally, I was their father. Biology doesn't automatically override that. We could challenge it, but I needed to think about what that meant for those kids. I hadn't really. I'd been so focused on the financial implications. If I disestablished paternity, I would have zero rights to see them. No visitation, no custody. They would lose their father overnight. She looked at me seriously. Was that what I wanted? I sat there, the weight of it settling over me, my daughter's laugh, my son asking me to help with his science projects. Gone. I asked what my options were. She laid them out. We could challenge paternity and fight for no child support, but I would lose all parental rights. We could use the DNA evidence as leverage in negotiations, or we could proceed as if I were the biological father and fight for shared custody. The DNA evidence gave me significant negotiating power. My wife didn't know I had it. If we played this right, we could get me a much better settlement without blowing up those kids' lives. She explained the process. We would file a response to her eventual petition. We would go through discovery, both sides exchanging financial documents, depositions, evidence. We would try mediation. If that failed, we would go to trial. But here's the key. We don't reveal the DNA evidence until we have to. We use it as a nuclear option. If she pushes for unreasonable terms, if she won't negotiate in good faith, the threat of exposure would be more powerful than the exposure itself. I asked what would happen if we did reveal it. Depends on how we framed it. If we could show she knew or suspected the kids were not mine and deliberately concealed it, that's fraud. If she genuinely didn't know, it's just unfortunate circumstances. Either way, it destroys her credibility with the judge. What about her boyfriend? Could we use the affair? This is a no-fault divorce state. Adultery doesn't matter much unless we can show it affected the kids or marital assets, but it helps paint a picture of character. She quoted me her retainer fee. It was substantial, 3 months of my salary, but she offered payment plans. I hired her on the spot. The divorce dragged on for 14 months. My wife filed the petition in January. I filed my response in February, requesting joint custody, 50-50 asset split, and challenging her child support calculations. She was surprised I hired an attorney. I saw it in her face when the papers were served. In March, we started discovery. Both sides requested financial documents, communications, records. My wife's attorney asked for my tax returns and bank statements. We asked for hers. That's when things got interesting. Her bank statement showed regular deposits to a separate account I didn't know about. Small amounts at first, then larger. Over the past several years, she'd been siphoning off money, nearly $30,000 I never knew existed. Money she had been setting aside, planning her exit long before she asked for the divorce. My lawyer filed a motion to freeze the accounts and add the hidden money to the marital assets. My wife's attorney tried to argue it was her separate property, earned income. The judge didn't buy it. We also requested her phone records through legal channels. My wife tried to fight it, but the judge ordered disclosure. The records showed thousands of messages to her affair partner going back years, long before she claimed the affair started. In May, we went to mediation, court-ordered, mandatory. We sat in separate rooms while a mediator shuttled back and forth with offers and counteroffers. My wife's opening position was insane. Full custody, every other weekend visitation for me, child support, plus 40% of my paycheck, and the house. My position was simple: joint 50-50 custody, no child support from either party, equal asset split. The mediator looked exhausted after the first session. We were miles apart. During the second mediation session in June, my lawyer pulled me aside. They were not budging on custody or support. She thought it was time to show them what we had. I'd been dreading this moment for months. Once we revealed the DNA evidence, there was no going back. My lawyer clarified, not the full reveal, just a hint. Let them know we had something significant. She went back into the negotiation room. 20 minutes later, she returned. She told them we discovered evidence that calls into question my obligation to pay child support. Didn't specify what. Her attorney asked for details. My lawyer said we would be happy to share everything in our court filing next week. My wife's attorney requested a private meeting with his client. When they came back, their position softened slightly. Shared custody, reduced child support. I could keep the house if I bought her out. Still not good enough. I told my lawyer to file the motion. My lawyer filed a motion to exclude child support obligations based on newly discovered paternity evidence. Per court rules, we had to provide the DNA results to opposing counsel with the filing. My wife called me 2 hours after the papers were served. She was crying, asked how I could do this. Those were my children. I raised them. I couldn't just abandon them because of some test. I asked if she knew, if she'd ever suspected. She screamed that she didn't. She didn't understand how this was possible. She hadn't been with anyone else except. She stopped. I finished the sentence for her, except her affair partner. Silence. I asked when it started. The real timeline, not the one she told her lawyer. She started speaking slowly and soft. She didn't know exactly. 6, 7 years ago, it was on and off. She didn't think we were still sleeping together. She thought they were mine. The timing made her sure, but she wasn't sure. That was clear from the panic in her voice. She said she needed to go and hung up. 2 days later, her attorney filed a motion requesting a guardian ad litem be appointed for the kids. The court agreed. A social worker was assigned to investigate what was in the kids' best interests. He interviewed both of us separately, then together, then the kids, then our families, our friends, our neighbors. He observed me with the kids, her with the kids. He reviewed school records, medical records, everything. His report, filed in August, was brutal for my wife. He noted that the affair had been ongoing for years, overlapping with both kids' births. He documented that she'd been using marital funds to maintain a secret bank account and for expenses related to her affair. He observed that the kids had a strong bond with me and that removing me completely from their lives would be traumatic. But he also noted that challenging paternity would be catastrophic for the kids emotionally. He recommended that regardless of biology, I should remain legally their father. His custody recommendation was simple: joint 50-50 custody, with neither parent paying support to the other. We went back to mediation in September. This time, my wife came in looking beaten down. No makeup, hair pulled back, exhaustion written across her face. Her affair partner had already distanced himself. Apparently, the DNA revelation and looming legal bills had cooled his enthusiasm. Her attorney made the opening statement. His client was prepared to accept joint custody and reduce child support in exchange for keeping the house. I watched her face as my lawyer responded. My lawyer made our counteroffer: joint custody, I keep the house, assets split 70-30 in my favor to account for the hidden funds and the fraud, no child support either direction, no alimony, and my wife pays my legal fees. Her attorney started objecting loudly, said it was completely unreasonable. They would take their chances at trial. My lawyer smiled. told them to please do. She would love to put my wife on the stand and have her explain under oath how she maintained a years-long affair, hid marital assets, and demanded child support for kids she knew might not be mine. The judge who reviews the GAL report would be very interested. My wife looked like she saw a ghost after that. She started to say she didn't know. My lawyer cut her off. She suspected. The timeline made that clear. She had an affair during both pregnancies and never mentioned it, never suggested paternity testing. Just let me believe, pay, and bond with kids while she planned her exit strategy. The courtroom went silent. My wife looked at her attorney. He whispered something to her. She shook her head, then put her face in her hands. She said, "Fine," quietly, 70-30. I keep the house, joint custody, no support. But she couldn't afford my legal fees. She just couldn't. My lawyer glanced at me. I threw my hands up and said, "Okay." My lawyer said each party pays their own fees. Final offer. My wife's attorney looked relieved, said accepted. We signed the settlement agreement that afternoon. The judge approved it 3 weeks later. The divorce was finalized in October, 14 months after she'd first asked for it. I kept the house. We split the assets 70-30 in my favor. I have the kids every other week, Wednesday overnights on off weeks, and alternating holidays. No child support from either of us. My wife moved into a small apartment with her 30%. Her affair partner disappeared within weeks of the settlement. Apparently a broke woman with 2 kids, massive legal bills, and 30% of marital assets wasn't the upgrade he'd been expecting. She tried to return to her old job, but they filled her position. She eventually found work, but at a significant pay cut. The apartment she could afford was in a worse school district. The life she'd been planning, the fresh start with her lover, the house, the stability, evaporated. I would see her at custody exchanges, and the transformation was stark. The confident woman who handed me divorce papers like a business transaction was gone. In her place was someone who looked perpetually tired, stressed, defeated. She tried to talk to me once, about 6 months after the divorce, asked if we could reconsider the asset split, said she was struggling. I reminded her that she had plenty of chances to be reasonable, to be honest. She had made her choice. The kids adjusted slowly. They don't know about the paternity test. Maybe someday I'll tell them. Maybe I won't. For now, they just know mom and dad don't live together anymore. Do I love them? That's complicated. The biology says they're not mine. But 8 years of bedtime stories, 5 years of tea parties and scraped knees, you can't just erase that. DNA doesn't undo the bond we built, even if it was built on lies. I kept them in my life not out of obligation, but because the alternative, walking away completely, felt like letting her win in a different way. She had already taken the truth from me. I wasn't going to let her take the kids too. What did I gain? I kept my house. I avoided paying child support for kids who are not biologically mine, saving hundreds of thousands over 18 years. I got a favorable asset split. I maintained a relationship with the kids on my terms. Most importantly, I didn't let her rob me blind while rewriting history. What did I lose? The illusion of the family I thought I had, the ability to trust completely. 13 years of my life built on someone else's lies. But here's what I learned. Patience pays. That moment when I saw the DNA results and didn't immediately confront her, that was the smartest decision I made. I could have screamed, thrown her out, destroyed everything in a rage. Instead, I waited. I planned. I documented. When she handed me those divorce papers, thinking I was just some broken worker who couldn't afford to fight, she'd already lost. She just didn't know it yet. Every smug smile, every condescending comment about being reasonable, every assumption that I would roll over, she was digging her own grave. The look on her face in that mediation room when my lawyer laid out the evidence, That made 14 months of pretending worthwhile. She spent years planning her exit strategy, and I dismantled it one afternoon. She gambled that I wouldn't find out, or that if I did, I would be too weak to do anything about it. She was wrong on both counts. The kids are collateral damage, and that's the one thing I genuinely regret. They didn't ask for this, but between letting them grow up thinking I was their father while their mother bled me dry and maintaining a relationship on honest terms, I chose the latter. Sometimes revenge isn't loud. It's not a dramatic courtroom speech or public humiliation. Sometimes it's just patience, documentation, and letting someone destroy themselves with their own greed. The warning is simple: protect yourself, verify everything, trust but verify. And if you discover you've been living a lie, don't react, calculate. The person who keeps their head while others lose theirs in some cases walks away with most of the assets.